Okay. Can folks please tell me on the chat that they can see my screen that I've shared? Cool. So just yeah, one more minute and we'll start. Now, you guys, of course, did the assignment, so you are joining the class. And of course, we were expecting that not everyone will be able to do the assignment, and actually, but that was the reason, right? We wanted you to practice, we wanted you to try out the properties, and that's the reason we had actually kind of extended the time too, right? To make sure that you do it. I think to just probably add colors and box shadows now, it shouldn't have taken a lot of time. One more thing that I'll tell you that, initially in my career, when I was just maybe couple of years into it, and I used to feel that I'm so bad at design. I don't know how to design, and whatever I create looks so bad. And I'm pretty sure that a lot of you would resonate with that feeling, right? But you know what, it's not about that. It's not about being a super creative person to be a good front end developer. You don't need to be a UX designer to be a good front end developer. And when I say a good front end developer, a good front end developer should be able to create UIs that are that do have a good user experience, right? A good user experience depends on a lot of things: colors and typography and spacing, and how much are you using all that. Then the creativeness comes in the fact that you want to create something unique. And there is where the creativeness comes in, where as a designer or maybe a creative person, think about what can I do unique for my brand. And that's where you'll see crazy stuff and that's happening on some websites. Otherwise, it's very simple. You follow a process, you follow uh, consistency, right? You follow, there's a workflow that you use to just make sure that your things that you're using are consistent, what colors you're using, what spacing you're using, and things like that. And that actually, but just knowing those things, you just create good UI, right? You don't need to think about being a UI designer, right? The second thing, in the same note, that I would like to call out to you folks is, you know it's very important to start thinking about CSS as an important tool. CSS being as important as excuse me. I'll just show you a couple of examples also today. And thinking about CSS being important as JavaScript will actually, if you're serious about front end development, web development, UI development in general, uh, you need to know CSS and need to be good at CSS, right? You please mute yourself. You may know a lot of tools, you may know libraries, Bootstrap and Tailwind. And again, I keep repeating myself. There is no harm in using library. Everyone uses it. It's used in production also at multiple organizations, right? But as a developer, probably as a backend developer, or probably as a UX designer, probably as someone who just needs to build some prototype, it's fine to use that library. But if you are going to work as a front end developer, you need to know CSS. Otherwise, you will not be able to work, right? Well, because uh, you create static websites in these classes and in the tutorials and things like that. But when you're building stuff, you're building with dynamic data, dynamic views and things like that, right? And most of the times, not you'll only be able to solve 20-30% of the use cases using some libraries, right? The rest of the CSS you'll have to write yourself. And that's very important to know, and that's why it's important to understand. And it's not hard. It's not hard. There are few things that are hard that you get it by practice. You get it by being able to know that early, right? But otherwise, it's just like any other programming language. You understand the concepts and then you apply them, you practice them, and you become good at it, right? So cool. Let me get started with the class now. So today we'll talk about a lot of powerful things in CSS. You know, this three classes actually complete one module where if you just go back and go through all these three videos or classes, you you'll be able to have a lot of concept by which you'll be able to write good amount of css, right? A lot of times all of that we'll talk about today is very neglected, especially early in your career, where you neglect all these selectors and you don't really get into the understanding of what are pseudo classes and what are pseudo elements, and you don't really practice css combinators enough. And then when you actually, there is a time where you could just use a css one liner css to write your styles. You end up writing javascript to insert some classes and things like that, right? So that is why it's important for you. There could be n ways to do certain things, but you need to know the best way, right? That makes you a good engineer, a good developer, a good front end developer, website developer, whatever you may call it. So okay, let's quickly jump on. If folks don't know, I had scheduled this class for 90 minutes. I'll try to wrap everything in by 8:30. We will see if we need a couple of minutes bio break or something like that, but mostly I'll try and go through. There are some exercises that will go in that will do in the class, and also then finally I have an assignment that I'll take 5 minutes to explain. Okay, so without now talking about anything else, let me get into it quickly. Right. So now CSS selectors. If you remember CSS terminology, what are CSS selectors? Can someone quickly tell me what is a selector? Can someone raise hands and give me an example of a CSS selector? Quickly, raise hands. Tell me, someone. I want to make sure that I'm talking to people. Yes, Puneet. Hi. Unmute yourself. Please tell me.
Hi, Vikram.
Hi.
Yeah, so CSS selectors would be like we would be selecting the A tag or an H1 or the HTML or body, something like that.
Right. Yeah. Thanks, Puneet. And when we do the CSS declaration, when we write the CSS declaration block, we first write the selector, and then inside your curly braces, you write your properties and the values, right? So CSS selector is the way how the browser engine will know which element these style needs to be applied. Okay, as simple as that. So what we'll do is we will quickly jump into example, and that's how I'll just tell you what we're doing. Uh, yeah, let's get into it very quickly. Hmm, just a second. Okay, so here is my code sandbox that I have. Okay, and I'll quickly talk about all the selectors. First of all, don't worry about the HTML that we have here. It's some HTML that I just generated. Some semantic HTML just gave me some page, and everything is semantic. You have sections and articles and all, and just a simple page, nothing to be too worried about. Okay, now what are selectors? First of all, there is a universal selector. This starts, and that's a star. When you say universal selector, it'll select everything. Okay, everything, every element and everything. So how and well when would you use it? Sometimes you want to give some, or you want to override some default styling. We've not come across box sizing yet, but box sizing, one of the very common properties that you put in a universal selector when you write uh, common property. We've not talked about box model, so let me not talk about it. But in general, the body in the HTML tag by default adds some padding and margin, right? So what you want to do, you want to remove padding and margin from everything, right? So I'll just write this selector, right? As simple as that. Okay, so this is your universal selector, selects everything. Okay, let's move it. Now, what is the next selector? Next selector is a tag selector. We have seen it. So let's say there must be some h1 here, and what we want to do is color my h1 to red and give a font size of 64 pixels so that we can see it. We can see it on the top. We have our, sorry, yeah, we have this h1, and we can just directly target it. And let's say we uh, say h2. So if there are multiple h2s, it'll get, see, all the h2s, it will get applied to all the h2s here, right? So this is your type selector, or the tag selector, that you may call it. Okay, now what is a class selector? Okay, so when would you use a tab or a type selector? Yeah, right. Normally, again, when you're trying to say that, okay, we've used it also multiple times, that all my h2 h3s and all that need to be of a certain color. I want to give this some primary color of blue, right? And that is where you would probably just use this, right? You'd ask me that why are you not using class here, right? Because I think that this suits more of a for a type selector, where I want to say that my all my headings need to be in a certain way, right? And it's more readable also. Now let's see, where do we use a class selector. Now what you want to do is modify the behavior of certain items in your HTML template. So you see here that this h2, I have given some class which is cursive header or large text. Okay, so what I'll do is with this cursive header, do here and say that the font family here is cursive. Okay, so whatever cursive header was there, so I see one cursive header here, one cursive header here, that comes to cursive, right? Now let's say we had to only change one of the headers to cursive, right? What would you use? Would you use a ID selector? Would you use okay? Let's talk about ID selector. So this is the class selector. What's the ID selector? ID selector is generally where it needs to be unique. One element which you needs to be unique. Now the funny thing is that it says that it needs to be unique. It needs to be only present in, so a unique ID should be present in only one particular HTML. But actually, if you use ID and put IDs on multiple elements as well, the same ID, you will see that the same styles will be applied to all those elements. HTML is actually very forgiving. So this is something that you as a developer needs to keep in mind, where you use ID and give it only, and you don't actually misuse it, and you use it only where it is required. Uh, when do we use it? You might ask a question that when do we use ID selector then? So it normally, most likely you'll not use ID selectors for writing styles. Most likely you'll not have, even for I just said, right, that let's say I had to create one cursive header also, right? But still I'll use class, right? Because later, if there is other headers or other places that I want to make cursive, I can use the same class, right? It gives you that the same way where you write programs, right? You try to see that, okay, if there is a small part that I'm doing in a function, I can just modularize it, keep it in a separate function, separate file, and maybe later if other parts of my project needs it, I'll put it, use it from there. Same behavior, the same way here. So where do you use ID? Sometimes you will give IDs so that you use that in the JavaScript to do some manipulation. We used ID selector in our profile example. Does anyone can anyone tell me where and why did we use it here? Okay, I'm not on your page. Uh, okay, yes, Zabiullah, tell me, why did we use ID? Where did we use it here?
We used for contact.
Yeah, what did we do actually? We
Uh,
used it for contact, but why did we use it for contact?
because
So,
to if
yeah,
we click the get in touch, it will go to the contact section.
yeah, exactly. Thank you. So see, as Zabiullah just said, we gave a ID here, right? For this section, which is contact. And what we did is this get in touch button, right? This get in touch button, which we have created somewhere. Uh, I can't see it. Yeah, this one. So this get in touch button, right? You see that it has a href hash contact, and remember, ID has a ID selector has a hash. So hash contact. So as soon as you click it, it goes there. And I've added some CSS to make that scroll very smooth. Normally, it will not just go smoothly by that, right? So basically this is one more place where you would use IDs. So these are the places where you use IDs. Normally you don't use IDs for styling stuff. Okay, so we did universal selectors, we did class selectors. Yeah, and then again one more thing, you could add multiple classes like this. So you have cursive header here, you can add multiple classes. You and that is where the abstraction helps, right? You don't need to specifically create a class for a header which is cursive and large text both. If you see large text at multiple places in cursive, you can keep that abstraction and use that style abstraction. And also don't worry to do this at the very starting of a project. So you keep writing stuff and you slowly iterate and make the stuff more structured. Okay, so the same example, if I say that all the large text, all the elements with the class of large text, I want to give a font size of, let's say, 48 pixels, just for the sake of it. So whatever was large, there was a P also, which was large text, and that's why it got. Now again, if there was a use case, so we might have used it. It's not a practical example, maybe. I just wanted to show you that probably you can actually use multiple classes. You don't necessarily need to use one class. Okay, so this was about class. Yeah. Also, one more thing. Yeah, so let's say this is an H2 heading, which is a large text. The H2 large, I want it to have 48 pixels, but the paragraph large, I want it to be 36 pixels, right? So how do I do that? So all large text by default is 48 pixels. For P specifically, I want the large text to be 36 pixels. So I can say that all P tags which have a class of large text, the font size should be 36 pixels. Okay, you see, this turned to 36 pixels now, right? So makes sense. So this way you can group multiple sectors also. If you wanted to add a ID, the same ID, to make it more specific, you could add a ID to this also. So you could add as many selectors as possible, right? To make an element more specific. So this was about these selectors. Any questions here quickly? Anyone has any questions? No? Cool. Thank you. Let us move to the next interesting part. Yeah, this is, where is this? Yeah, attribute selector, right? Yeah. We did all this. Yeah, we did universal, we did type, we did class, we did ID, and now we're doing attribute selectors. So attribute selectors are one of the most powerful and most neglected. How many of you have used attribute selectors? Raise hands. Just raise hands if you've used attribute selectors to select anything in CSS. Nobody. Nobody has used attribute selectors. Wow. No, I don't believe you guys. Sorry. Let's see what are attribute selectors then. Okay, it is the same example. I will actually, maybe I can just show you very quickly here itself what and where and why would you use attribute selector. What are attributes? Can someone tell me when I say attributes? What are attributes? Please raise hands and tell me. Please help me to proceed. Someone tell me what are attributes. Please raise hands and I'll not proceed. Nobody knows what are attributes in HTML. What is a class? A class is an isn't class an attribute of an HTML element? That's H2 here. Yes, no, no, yes, yes, Srihari. Yeah, unmute yourself, Srihari.
Hi, can you listen? Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you.
I like attributes are like they give more information about the or more how do I say more information to that from for that tag. Like we know the tags have to get better information about the tags, or if we need to get more
Yeah,
information from the tags, we can use the attributes.
yeah. So the tag here, the image tag, right? How many
Yeah,
attributes does it have here?
two attributes, source and alternate.
Exactly. Thank you. Thank you, Srihari. So basically, tags have this attribute where you give some predefined name and you say equal to and equal and the value of that attribute. Okay. And now what makes these very powerful is now you can use these attributes to select specific HTML elements, and that is so cool. And I'll show you what's cool about it. Okay, so let's quickly do it. So you see there's here is a progress bar that I've put. Okay, so this progress has a value of 10 and the max value of 100. Okay, it says 70 but it should not say 70, it should say 10. Anyway, that doesn't matter. And let's say I change this value to 100, it will completely fill, right? And oh, okay, let me show you guys the same thing here, right? So yeah, we have this progress bar here. You can see the progress bar and the value is 70. So if I make it 100, it gets filled. Okay, let's get it down to 80. Okay, so let's say I want to say that progress, and this is the tag, and what I want to say is when the value is equal to 80, then make the height equal to 60 pixel. By default, of course, you can see it's not 60 pixel, right? So I added something and made this. Now what is this? This value is this thing that I'm using here, right? Value is your attribute name, and you can also just say this. What does this mean? This means that all the progress bars, if they have the value attribute, the height will be 60, irrespective of the value, right? What does this mean? Is this valid? Can someone tell me? Is this valid or invalid? Someone said it's invalid. It's not invalid. It's still valid, right? What we did earlier was we combined two selectors. We combined the type selector, which is progress, and the attribute selector, which is value. By on its own, also value selector will work. So if you go ahead and add a value to any of the other attributes, that will also start taking whatever the styles that you've given. Okay, so basically this means that the attribute which you put in there should be present. Okay, when you say equal to and something, that means that the value of that attribute should be exactly equal to this. Okay, so there is something else also, right? So what we can do, okay, now there's other powerful things. So see, that's what here we are mentioning. There is an exact match where you can say that an attribute, let's say there is an attribute called data type on one of these element, and that if it's primary, then apply that styles that are inside it. Okay, only attribute where you could just say that a data type attribute is there and the value could be anything, value could be empty also. If that attribute is there, then the styles will apply. It's more powerful where you can actually even add that it should be case sensitive, the value. If you add s, that makes it case sensitive. What it means, if data type is primary with p capital, this selector will not work and the style inside that will not get applied to that. Okay, again very very powerful, where you can say that this attribute, href attribute, contains this value. Okay, so if the href value is full www.example.com, https colon blah 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 www.example.com, it will still match because you said a contains one, right? And you see I've added you've added it to a href. So in anchor tag, if you, with this selector, if you have multiples, all the ones which have example.com will match. Let's say you want to style, you use multiple links of stack overflow and you want to link style all of them in a particular style, you can use something like this, right? Just think about these use cases where normally what you would do is go ahead and put classes there and then write your styles. Mm, you could do it for static websites, but imagine that this data is coming from backend. You cannot add classes to it. What will you do? You'll start writing javascript to manipulate the template and then add classes. No, you could do it with simple css, right? So that's why it's very important for you to know this. So whenever the use case comes, you'll be able to apply it, and when you practice it, it'll be in your mind after 1 year and 2 year also, right? And that's where, if some use case comes, you can immediately do it, because I've seen it, I've seen in review where people have written 50 lines, 60 lines of javascript to do things that could have been done in 2 lines of css. I can vouch for it. I've seen it in reviews myself, right? And it comes from experience. If you know it, if you practice it enough, you'll automatically know that okay, there was something like this and I could use it. Okay. Similarly, if you want to style everything that starts with https, all links, this sign you can use it for the start. Okay. And then same thing, ends .com, everything that ends with, all links that ends with .com, you can use something like this. And that all this makes it interesting, right? uh, there's some more. This is much more powerful. There are some more combinations where you can use hyphen separated, where you can use pipes and all that. You go back and see what are the other attribute selectors, try it out, practice them. Okay, let us see couple of them here. So let's see the image tag here, right? The image tag here has an example. So let me just quickly put some css here. What I've done, the image tag, which has an alt attributes, right, and starts with example. What is the alt attribute here? See, alt is example image. Okay, so when I give this, let's say I change it to 400, it's changing because it's applying. If I remove this sign from here, it will not work because you don't have an image with example alt text, right? It has example image. So if I add image here, then again it should work. What's the alt text? So example image, right? See, when you view that, and then I could probably use the end one also, right? What's the end? It's the dollar sign, right? So I can use dollar and I can say, see, it didn't match. So I could say image, and sorry, I put it in the wrong place. See, so this is where it's very powerful and you could use things. So one more, are there any other elements? I'm not sure how many of you have seen this time tag. There's a time tag in HTML that you could use to display time. Okay, and this actually takes a date time attribute. So what I can say is, whenever the date time is equal to 2023, I want to do stuff. There might be multiple date times. I might be having a table which has multiple time tags inside rows. but I want to style all the 2023, the current year ones, in certain color, right? So I can do something like this, and then I can just add, let's say, color is equal to red. Okay, so this time this did change. Let me see what's the problem. So what did I say? I said that the date time. Okay, so it's wrong, right? I said that it should be equal to 2023. That's not right. I should say that start with 2023. Sorry. Okay, and it turned red, right? So this is very powerful, and I'll after a couple of things that we talk about, I'll show you one example where this you'll use it in multiple examples. You'll see this in multiple examples right now. So let us quickly do an exercise also, based on the knowledge that we've learned. uh, Let me quickly give you guys the assignment so that I can take 1 minute to drink water. Anyone have? Oh, Srihari, you've raised hands. Want to say
Uh,
something?
yeah, I have a doubt. Like, what are we? Why are we using attributes? Okay, but we can do the same with class, right? Like, we can give the class to this, but what is the difference?
Yeah, exactly what I was trying to tell you, and I will see this in later example. So let's say you were not allowed to change this HTML. Then how would you do it? So you cannot add class. This data is coming from the backend. It's getting rendered from the backend. Then how would you add class? You cannot always change the HTML. That's the problem that I've been talking about.
Okay.
And that those will be the use case. When you start building complex applications, most of the times the views that you will create will not be static. Most of the times the views will be based on the data, right? And when it will be based on data, you'll not have a lot of control on the template, and you'll not be able to add classes, remove classes, stuff like that. And that is why you need to know these powerful selectors. That is where these selectors help. That's why gave you that example, right, where I've seen people in the view where the view is getting rendered by JavaScript, right? And folks don't know about these attribute selectors, so they end up writing JavaScript that add a class when something happens, or add
Oh,
a class when all the href elements have .com. They'll have to iterate through the list of all the links, and then figure it out and put a class in that. No, you could do that with these selectors if you know them. Okay,
oh, okay, thanks.
cool. So yeah, the assignment, no, not assignment, sorry, the exercise. Let us quickly see what's the exercise. It's a very simple exercise. Let me show you what's the exercise. Yeah, okay, cool. Hmm. I think it's just say again the same example. It's actually the same example, right? And what do we want to do is, let me first add this. So what you see here on the top, you see there is navigation list, right? Navigation list, home, about, services, contact, blah blah blah. Okay. So what will I do? Is first, just forget about it. What I did was I just wanted to put them horizontal. I had told you this in the last section as well, last class as well, how display inline does this. Okay, now what is your assignment is basically, there could be multiple anchor tags. There are only these four, but maybe there are some down also. Okay, so you want to select all the anchor tags which have an external link. Okay, and they have a target equal to blank. Okay, so what I can do is I want to do this. So in one of them, or like, let me just add this from here. Okay, so you have GitHub and you have LinkedIn also. Okay, And LinkedIn, if you click, it opens here on itself in the same tab. But GitHub, if you will open, it will open in the new tab, because if I'm sure you guys might know it, but those who don't know, you in the anchor tag you can give an attribute which says underscore blank, and if you give that attribute, it opens in another tab. Right, so there are underscore self and other values of this target attribute also. Go back and check them out. Okay, so now tell me what is the CSS that you can write it in the chat. I'll just give you 1 minute. What is the CSS that I'll write if, let's say, I had to select only this, okay, and I had to remove the underline from the GitHub. Okay, I cannot, of course, I cannot add class here. So what CSS should I write here? If someone wants to tell me by raising hands, please tell me, or if you have a solution, please put it in the chat. If you didn't understand it, then also you can ask me. Basically what I'm trying to say is remove the underline from the GitHub. How do you do that? Maybe let me increase the font size also, so that it's evident. uh, Anyone? Yeah, 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 it's right. Okay, now let's say I change it slightly. I add one more link, let's say Twitter, and what I say is twitter.com. Okay, and let's say I add this too. Not find index directory. What happened to you? Oh, it won't take twitter.com directly, is it? Okay, no worries. For just the sake of it, I add most likely this internal link won't open here, but let me add it for just the sake of it. If I add it here, some of your solutions won't work. So how do you modify the solution to make it work? So now it's the same question. So for GitHub, you want to say that text decoration is equal to none. Okay. But the solution where you just say that a and target equal to blank won't work, because that will remove it for contact also. We don't want to do that. Right. So yeah, very simple, right? You already know it. So for all the anchor tags which start with a href value of https, okay, also I want to combine it, also has the target and set to, oh okay, I could have just said target equal to, yeah, self, that's fine. So target equal to underscore blank. Okay, and for that what I want to do is want to say text decoration is equal to none, and that should be moved from GitHub. Okay, cool. Hopefully this is clear, and hopefully you don't have any questions, any further questions. I will quickly move on to the next part. So again, a very short TLDR. Please practice these attribute selectors. I myself have not given these a lot of value very early in my career. As you start building complex applications, you will have to use this. Otherwise, you'll end up writing JavaScript that's not required. Okay, so keep practicing this. Keep this in mind. Okay, let's move to another one of my favorite things, favorite part. Again, very neglected. A lot of people don't know this. A lot of people don't use it much. Don't understand them well. Okay, so let's again quickly. Okay, who'll tell me what are pseudo elements? You've seen them before. You've seen them in the examples that I have done also. After, before, at least, right? Someone tell me what are pseudo elements. Anyone? Raise hands. You've seen them before. What are pseudo elements? Okay, you can't explain. Don't worry. So basically, pseudo elements are something that are inserted in the DOM element. So this is the uh, most of the time this is where students get confused. Okay, and the difference between pseudo classes and pseudo elements, will go to pseudo classes next. But pseudo elements, you know, they will, you will be able to see them in the DOM always. Like after, before, you can see them in the DOM. You will be able to click on them and see what styles are being getting applied to them on the DOM. Okay, pseudo classes, you cannot see them as an element inside the DOM. Okay, but most of the pseudo elements, you will be able to see them inside the DOM. Okay, for some or the other purpose, either browser inserts them or you insert them, to make use of them. Okay, and they are very powerful. They can do a lot of crazy stuff. Okay, pseudo elements are always meant, to the selector that you write are meant to be with double colons. You will tell me that, Vikram, when I have used single colon with after, that has also worked. It worked because in very early older specs of HTML, after worked with the pseudo elements, had single colon, the after and before, right? Earlier later it was changed to double colon, and to be backward compatible, the single colon also works with in most of the browsers. Okay, without doing a lot of this thing, let us quickly go to the code and check out some code and do some changes. Nice. Okay. uh, Hold on, just give me 1 minute. I'm just setting this up for you. I will quickly discuss all the pseudo elements, and then we'll go ahead. Okay. Mhm. Okay. Yeah, so you see this again. Don't worry about what is this and what is written and all that element and all that. It's just simple page. I'm trying to show you something. So this head, this underline, right? It has a gap in between. Let's say you had to create this style. Okay, maybe it's not a very pretty style, but let's say you had to create this, right? And it's done by pseudo elements. Okay, let's go and see how it's done, or if you can see pseudo elements there. Okay, so what you can see is there, this is the anchor tag which has a GitHub, and then you have this before and after this thing set here. Okay, so how was it done and what did we do to get it working? So let us discuss that. Give me 1 second. Okay. Okay, so what I've done is I have the same, code sandbox, and I've removed the styles so that we can go ahead and do things ourselves. Okay, you see this, we already, the one that we did in the last class, we've added that style. So this is an anchor tag. Let me go back and show you this HTML. This is an anchor tag which has a target blank, this GitHub and GitHub link. So and now, so we have done, we have given it some style here. Okay, now what, this is the anchor tag, and which is an external link What I want to do is I want to add some icon here, okay, and so uh, that icon basically displays that this link opens in an external tab. Okay, how would you do that? Okay, so I can quickly show you. So we have an anchor. So what we'll do is we will add an after attribute. Always after must have a content. Okay, anything you add in the content in after content, it will go ahead and sit here. So the browser will create that element and it goes here and sit here. Okay, I can put anything here. Okay, I can put anything here and it goes there. Okay, so if I had to put let's say an icon, I'm just using an emoji for now. So add an emoji here and that shows it, it's now link. Let me also put another emoji maybe, right? So this is how, without manipulating the HTML, you use the anchor tag and you added this thing, and that could be anything, right? And that's the after tag for you. You use that after pseudo element, and if you go ahead and try and inspect this, you will see that that after was inserted here, right? You see this after, and if I click this, I see that the style come here, the content has this. Okay, you can actually add more styles to it. I can say that border equal to 1 pixel, solid, that border and all that, right? So you could do all those stuff with this after. Okay, now let's go back and let's create that underlying style that we were talking about. Okay, so how do we do that? Okay, so let me actually create that, or actually, you know what, I will show you the styles very quickly. Yeah, cool. So this is the anchor tag that I wanted to target. So what I'll do is first I'll add a after and before both to these. So what I'm when I say comma, I had told you this in the second class, I guess, that this means that all the styles that I write here apply to, both these selectors. Okay, any element that will be selected by both these selectors, all the styles will apply. Okay, so what I needed to do, what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to create this with after and before elements. So I'll do is I'll create an HTML element after and before and style it and position it in that way so that it looks like that. So what I'll do is quickly create them. So I need to put some content. I'll put them empty because I'll just use the height and width to create them. Width right now, let me just add something. Let me say 50% of width, and height. Let me just for seeing it, let me add 10 pixel. Let me give a background color right now, this red, so that I can see them. Okay, so I can okay. So don't worry about what is this position absolute. Some of you know it. Who do The people who don't know, don't worry about it. Position absolute, display inline, and all that. We've not discussed it. Don't worry about it. Just says that this align these absolutely position to this particular guy. Okay, and for that I'll also have to say that anchor position is equal to relative. Okay, now I need two styles. Now before tag and the after tag, there needs to be some differences. So let me put these. For for both of these, what I also want is bottom to be 0. I want them to be at the bottom. Okay, and the before, this is the before and this is the after. That's why you see before is starting from the start of the element, after is starting after the end of the element. I want to get these in. So then let me start writing it. I want to put left. I want to move it a little left. So let me move it a little left 10 pixel, and I let me move this guy uh, a little right. Let's say minus 10 pixel. Okay. Both of these had some border radius, and you know what? border radius, if you see it, it has border radius on these sides, but it doesn't have border radius on this side. Okay, so there is where you can use the shorthand property of border radius, and you can give different borders at different corners. Okay, so yeah, so I gave the border to top left and bottom left. Okay, then okay, this I gave it for both the ones, right? I should not do that. I should do it only for the before one, and for the after one, this will be 0. This will be 20, and this should be 20, I guess. Okay, what am I doing actually? It's just a shorthand property. What I'm writing is border left, border top left radius. So you can give actually each of the border top left, border bottom left, border top right. Then this border radius is actually short form of that. Okay, so yeah, I don't know what was the color. Golden rod, I guess. I don't know what was the color, but yeah, pretty much the same effect, right? Yeah, there is some spacing and all that we have that we could adjust, but I'm just trying to give you an idea that this is how we use this after and before to create this. You'll see at a lot of places these kind of things would be used with after and before, and they're actually really, really powerful. So, okay, now to demonstrate one more, I have a simple exercise that we'll quickly do in the class. Oh, I actually, someone wants to say something? Yes, someone.
Why we use anchor tag position relative to tags?
Sorry, why do you use
Position relative for anchor tag.
It's just repeated. Don't worry about it. We don't need it. We don't need it twice.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you. I wanted to show you some more uh, these pseudo elements, right? And let me quickly show it to you. Open sandbox. Some very powerful pseudo elements. So yeah, these we have already done. So forget about that. Now see, so you have a P and you say first letter. So let's remove all this style first so that we are able to visualize this. So I say that for the P tag, the first letter, you style it like this, right? And you can do it. Sorry. Right, and you can just and you need to remember that it works only for inline elements. The first no, actually first letter would work for anything. The first line only works for inline one. Okay, so this is the first letter. A lot of times, if you'll see text based sites and all, they'll use it. Very common, this is very common in print media. Okay, sometimes, when you want to emphasize, I have seen designs where, you want to emphasize the initials of the name. There also you use something like this first letter. Again, very powerful. You need to remember this. First line. Similarly, you can use first line, and first line actually works with your. Ah, man. Yeah, first line works only when display block is set. So what did I say? For the same p tag, the background color of first line, I want to set it to light green. I can also change the color. Maybe let's say the color of the first line, make it red. Okay, you see, turn red. I could maybe say font weight of the first line should be 900. Okay, yeah, what just putting some random styles. What I'm trying to tell you is you can add some styles to these pseudo elements. Remember, this is something that you must remember, that not all properties work on pseudo elements. Each pseudo element would support only certain properties, right? So you go back, read the docs, see what works, and that's how you will be able to and you don't need to actually memorize this, and that's why I also don't remember which properties work with which pseudo elements, right? You practice them, you know that certain properties work with pseudo elements. First line and first letter are always for text based, or most of the text based properties work here, right? So basically you try it out, you practice and see what works, and try to apply it, and that or go back, read the docs and see what works, right? And that's how you'll know what works, and by practice you'll able to know that only these properties work. So don't worry about them, just try to practice. Then there is one more pseudo element, that's a selection. Okay, so what is this? So selection is this. So basically when I select text, you see that browsers add some default style. The background they set is to light blue, or based on your browser they'll set some value. You can actually customize that. So I can say that the p tag for the selection, the color is yellow and background color should be violet. See, this starts happening. Okay, and this will not work for this h1 or anchor tag, right? Because this, I didn't give the selection for this, right? I only give for the p tag. If I want to change for my entire site, I'll put this, and that will also work, right? This is also the same selection, this is also same selection, right? Pretty cool. Okay. uh other other Yeah, I added an input also to actually show you this. Let me just remove this. Basically we have added an input here, this input, and this is required field, the type is email, and we've added some placeholder, right? And what we can say is the style. For input, you see we've used the attribute selector. When the type is email, width is 100% and font size this, right? And there is one more pseudo element, that is placeholder pseudo element. So when the placeholder is present, then the color is dark olive for this. Sorry, not present, for the placeholder. Whatever styles you want to set, you can set it like this using input placeholder. This is the style for the placeholder that you want to set. Okay, want to change the size for the placeholder, you can change that. So you can maybe say, I can say 36 pixel. Okay, so I click on this, and when I write the text is 24 pixel. You see that the text is 24 pixel because input text size is 24 pixel, but for the placeholder the font size is 36 pixel. Again, this is not practical. I'm just trying to show you what are the capabilities and how powerful this is. Okay, let us quickly do a quick assignment on this, and again, very pretty cool assignment. I'm sure you guys will learn something about it. Give me 1 second to set it up quickly. Hmm. Okay, cool. So what is this thing? So in HTML itself, there is no JavaScript that I've written. This is HTML itself, right? You have a details tag, a name called details, and you have a summary, and then we've written some paragraph. But you see, you cannot see the paragraph that's there. Okay, you can see the title of the summary, but you don't see what is below this. Okay, you can click on this. So this is a native thing in the HTML where you can actually write this, and you can have this where you click on this, and you can have a detailed summary kind of thing. Okay. Now, what is this? If we actually inspect this, you see inside details there is summary, and summary has a pseudo element. I told you, right? Pseudo elements are present in the browser and you can see them. And it has a marker. And browser by default has added a lot of styles to this marker. Okay. And you also, I'll show you something else also open. You see this details HTML, there is an open attribute here. We didn't add it. We didn't add it, but there the browser is adding it. If I close it, that open attribute goes away. If I open it, it comes back. Okay. Now, what is your assignment? Your assignment is that when exercise, not assignment, that when you have this side arrow, when it is closed, we want a plus sign here, and when it is open, we want a minus sign here. How can you do it? Can someone quickly do it? I'll give you 1 minute to do it. If you have any questions, just tell me. You want a link? I'll send you this link. Let me also open it in a new tab for you guys to see the HTML well. Okay, so inspect this guy, and you see here the summary and the p tag as a marker, and then details. And when I open it, we have open attribute. When close it, no attribute. Yes. So basically, what we want to do is we want to change this. Okay. Okay. So let me do it for the default style. So what will I say is marker content is equal to plus sign. It became plus. You see, became plus. But but in both the states, it's plus only. I don't want that. I want to make this minus when it is open. Now, can you tell me? I'll give you 1 minute. Anyone? Anyone wants to try? Who wants to try? Yes, I think Shishendu has gave an answer which seems right to me. I can just yeah. Srihari wants to. You want to say something? You want to give the answer?
I think we can use like attribute if it is open, it is we can use marker as plus.
Yeah,
Otherwise,
yeah. I think something like probably like this, where you have a attribute selector, and but this is wrong. You cannot. So yeah, that there's a difference. This is wrong. This won't work. I'll show you. This won't work. This didn't work. But you're close. But why did this not work? Because the attribute that's there on the details, but the marker is inside that. It's a child. Okay, and now we can say that. So basically, to show you guys, this is the details thing, and this is the summary marker. Summary has the marker. Okay, so now this gives you the details with the attribute. Select the details with the attribute as open. With the attribute as open, and then the summary marker pseudo element should have the content as negative minus. Okay, this is what the CSS style says. This actually says that all markers anywhere should have the content of plus. You can say that summary marker should be plus. You could also say that details summary marker. Okay, it's the same thing. Okay, pretty cool. Learned something new. Cool. So let's quickly jump ahead. Um, yeah. So this was mostly all about pseudo elements that I wanted to tell you. Very powerful. And as I told you that we'll come back to this uh, So we'll keep coming to these pseudo elements. Pseudo elements are really powerful. Sorry, not pseudo elements. Pseudo elements are powerful. Attribute selectors, right? Attribute selectors are really powerful. Excuse me. So, these are pretty cool, pretty powerful. And only once you start practicing, you'll know these. Okay. So let me go to my next cool thing. Pseudo classes. These are a beast. Pseudo classes again pretty neglected, and these are pretty interesting. Let's quickly jump in and see some of these. I will actually now, maybe we don't have a lot of time to start doing coding in the class, but I will still try and show you most of the things so that we don't miss out anything. Okay. So I just to repeat, pseudo elements were something that the browser adds in the DOM. It's like a element that's present. Okay, pseudo classes are not, you'll not find them in the DOM. They are the states of certain elements. Okay, pseudo elements are the elements themselves that are, you directly cannot add in a DOM, but you can write CSS or browser themselves add them. Okay, you don't, why they are called pseudo elements? Because you cannot add them directly in the HTML. You cannot say after, you cannot add that. No, in the HTML you cannot say marker and then write styles for marker. Okay, pseudo elements cannot be added directly. They get added specifically when you write CSS or when actually browsers add them at specific places. Pseudo classes are the states of some of the elements, and we'll see them. Let's see the pseudo classes. Okay. Cool. So again, don't worry about what the things are. I'll quickly show you everything. Okay. So for now, let's just forget about this section here and just see this button that we're creating. Okay. So what? And let me also open it here so I can show you. Okay, so what have we done? Don't worry about all this. We've written some custom style for the button, and it's the same button. So if I remove all the styles, it's your poor little button that you'll see. Yeah, by default, this is what the browser added. Okay, this also has styles. Okay, browser has given some border color, some background color, and and when you hover, you see there is some change in the background color and all that. This is also browser has added. Okay, but if that's not good enough for you, you can add styles and change the properties of this button. Okay, so that is what we're doing. We will change the look and feel of this button right now. Okay, so it looks like this, and what we can see here, let me refresh this. Let me inspect this, and when you see this button, you see all this font size, font family, and all that we give. And by default, whatever CSS, see the browser has added so much of default styles to this button. Okay, and the styles that we gave it got overridden. Okay, now what is hover? Okay, someone unmute yourself quickly. Tell me what is this hover pseudo class. You all, most of you know it. Tell me, please. Don't sleep. Yes, Puneet.
So it is actually when mouse cursor moves over the button. So at that point, the class
Exactly.
that gets added.
Exactly, that's right. So basically, hovers are when your mouse is the state of the element when your mouse is over, that's particular element. Okay, and your debug console has pretty cool stuff that you can see here. So you can click on this, and you have all these styles here. You can say hover, and on hover you can see if any style was added or not. Okay, forget about it. Let us add some quick style here. Okay, so what I have done is on hover, So this is how you write it, and there were double colon for pseudo elements, but single colon for pseudo classes. Please remember that. So on hover, I've added some box shadow. Okay, so you'll see that when I hover onto this, you see the shadow on hover. There is some shadow. It looks like it's elevated. When my mouse is over it, you can see the shadow. When I remove the mouse, the shadow goes away because the hover state goes away. Okay, so if you have to actually see what styles are applied for hover of that particular element, you can actually inspect that element, this element, and you can click this and you can click on hover, and you see the hover style got selected here. See, and I can see that button hover style now. I removed it, it got removed. So this is actually a pretty neat tool in the debug console, which you can use to, maybe you've got some style and you want to figure out the what is the hover style, right? So you can just click it and figure out what the hover style is. Okay, so we added some style on hover. Let us see what is active. Does anyone know what is active? What is the active state? Yes, Zabiullah, tell me what is an active state?
It's like when we click a link, so the next time it will be like active.
That is visited. What is
This,
active?
active means that the tab which is which we are on, the page which we are on currently.
No. What is active pseudo class? Yeah, I know, we get confused by this a lot. But what is an active pseudo class? It's not that.
Okay.
Yes. Shishendu, maybe you can tell me.
The active is when we click on the button, but we like hold on that state, but
Yes.
not
Yes.
lift it.
Yes. Yes, you are right. Right. So let me just quickly put some style to demonstrate that. So active is when I'll actually click on the button, but till the time I'll not leave it. That is the time the button is active. Click and don't leave your mouse. That is the active state. So let me just for demonstration first quickly add some style. So I'll change the font size only when it's active, and I'll change it to, let's say, 48 pixels. Okay, so you see by default it's not there. On hover also it's not there. I'm hovering onto it, but that style didn't get applied. I'll click it, okay, and I'll not leave it. Or when I leave it, okay, there is some other style that is getting, yeah, this style. I don't want these styles to get applied right now. uh, Yes, I'll demonstrate that too. But yeah, that is what I wanted to show you guys. That basically active is when you've clicked it and you've not released it. Okay, clicked, I've not released it. As soon as I release, the active state goes away. Okay, and you could actually again use the same trick. Click on this, and you could see the active style. Hmm. Oh, sorry. I was not inspecting the right element. So on the button, the active, yeah, you see, now you can see what is the active style by this debug. This is very powerful. Okay. This is your active style. You can check it out here. Yeah, Puneet, you have a question?
Yes, so Vikram, I just wanted to ask, like, when you're playing on that hover in the debug tools, there's also that .cls right beside it.
Yes.
This one. So, what is the use of this? Like,
You can
does it?
add a class here. You can actually
Okay.
add a class, and all this actually goes away when you refresh it. But
Yeah,
you
but
the
it.
debug panel is actually very powerful. You can do a lot
Mm,
of prototyping with this. So you could just click and add a class here. There are so many. There are thousands of things that you can do here. What you should do is you should actually try out everything, all the buttons. Try it out. There are documentation for everything that you find it here. Go
yeah.
back and search it on Google and find out the documentation. Okay,
Sure.
cool.
Thanks.
So yeah, thank you. That was your active style. So let me add the active style. I have not, I didn't show you guys earlier. I told you that you can add a box shadow inset. Okay. So what I wanted to give this button a effect that when you're hovering, it's kind of elevated, but when I clicked it and I'm not released it yet, it looks like it's inserted, it's going down. So that's where I've added an inset box shadow. So when I click it, you see I've added an inset shadow, so it's kind of looks like it's pressed, it's going inside. Okay, and when I release it, it goes away. That's the active style. Okay, cool. Let me show it to you in this bigger place, right? I click it, and that style gets applied. Release it, goes away. So that's your active pseudo class. Okay, what's your focus pseudo class? Okay, now focus is also something interesting. Okay, focus is where, how do you have you seen this blue outline that comes on the buttons? Has anyone seen that? Yes, right? That's actually focus. When you use tabs, you see this blue line. I clicked on tab and that came here. Okay, I'm using a tab in my browser. You see on the top, the URL section is now has that outline. Now my name there has an outline. Keep clicking on tab, and that's happening. Okay, the element that focus changes by doing this, right? So this is what is your active, sorry, your focus class. Okay, so you can add some CSS to change that. Okay, so let us do that. So let us say that the button on focus. Okay, and who uses that? This is mostly for people who are using only keyboards, right? If you're using only keyboard, you not actually use your mouse to click, right? So you need to know where your cursor currently is, right? That's where. And then there are some visually impaired people who also use only keyboards, and you don't want to remove these outlines. Okay, so now let's say I put the focus on the button again. You see, whatever focus style I give this, it's getting applied, and it's not a practical style. I just wanted to illustrate that, and that's why I gave it. Okay, but there is something cool also. Sometimes what you want to do is, people who are not using keyboard, you don't want to show them this blue outline by default, but you want to show it for people who are using the tab or the keystrokes. Okay, and that is where your focus visible comes into picture. Okay, focus visible pseudo class only applies when you're using it on with the keyboard. So I'll remove this one. Okay, and now, so okay, let me just show you again. So this is the focus type, and when I click it also, I get the focus, because currently this element has focus. And if I remove it, the focus goes, if I click somewhere else, the focus goes away. Clicking it gets the focus. Click somewhere else, that part gets the focus. Okay, using the tab also, it gets the focus. Okay, tabbing to some other element, the focus goes away. Okay, now what I want to do is, I want to add the focus. Okay, uh, only when on the tab, on the clicking, I don't want to put that focus, and that is where your focus visible comes into play. What you can, this focus visible that you add, when I click it, the focus won't be added, but when I'll use the keystrokes, the focus will still be added. That's the power of focus visible, and that is where you sometimes use it, right? Where you don't want to show the focus only for keyboard, and you don't want to do it for clicks. You want to maintain your style, you use focus visible. That is one of your pseudo classes. There are other pseudo classes as well. Okay, I have to go through some of these. Okay, then let's talk about these visited and non-visited links. Okay, so see, here we could use that. uh, we have some links. Okay, Stack Overflow, Google, GitHub, Goal, Click Info. Okay, these links here simple, no styles and all. And what we have said is, whatever is visited, you say that the color is dark magenta, and whatever is link means unvisited, the color is magenta. Okay, so only GitHub is visited, so that's why it's showing dark, and these are showing in a different color. Let me visit Stack Overflow. I click on this. Let me go back because let me refresh this. Actually, it breaks when you click on this. Okay, ideally it. Let me click on new tab. Yeah, because now I visited staggered flow, so the style changed. Okay, let me visit this link also because I visited the style change. Okay, so this is your visited and link. Link is by default, and visited is what happens when you actually go through it. Okay, um, actually we are just around 5 minutes away from today's completion of the class. But I don't think we have to do 2 3 more exercises of pseudo classes, and then we have to also talk about combinator. So I think I need at least half an hour to 45 minutes more, and I don't think we can do it in the same class. So I think 8:40 will also be difficult to finish. Swapnil, how much time? Yeah, 15 minutes will not be able to do. We'll have to rush through a lot if we have to do it in 15 minutes. And I don't want to because there are some more interesting things that I have to talk about. Maybe we will need to do a 45 minutes class again for this to complete this. Okay. Any concerns around that? Yeah, we do. I'm still not sure if we'll be able to schedule it tomorrow or we'll be able to do it next week. Of course, we don't have um, uh, you don't have to do any assignments right now because once we complete it then only I'll show you or tell you what the assignment is. But I would definitely need some half an hour 45 minutes more to finish this class. Okay, so we will schedule this. Maybe we'll take a poll maybe from you guys. Maybe we schedule it this weekend, maybe we schedule it on Monday or Tuesday. We'll figure it out. Okay, any questions on the class or any concerns right now on doing it? Yeah, yes, Puneet.
Yeah, I actually have a question. So, can you please go back to that attribute selection that where we changed the plus icon, that plus and minus one?
Oh, the details one. Okay.
Yeah, yeah. So I was actually trying to do like add some padding to that marker. So I was like, check the chat. I am putting that CSS over here.
Yeah.
So like this. So in this, like content is getting applied, font size is getting applied, but no border padding or margin got applied. So I just wanted to add a little padding, some spacing between the text and that plus icon. So
Yeah, I
I
get you.
was
I get
yeah.
you. And there are other ways. Maybe you will have to add a padding to the text itself. You know,
Okay.
I'm not sure right now. I have not tried it. But
Okay.
what I have told you, you need to remember one thing. All these pseudo classes and pseudo elements
Yeah.
won't take all the properties. There are only some certain set of properties that you can
Yeah.
apply to them. Okay. You will actually, if you go and check the browsers, the styles, you will see that the browser by default has added a lot of styles and marked them as important. So you'll not be able to override them until you put an important or things like that there, right? So go back. It's very
Okay.
interesting that you have that curiosity. Go and try to inspect it. Put the styles there itself. Go back and see the docs. Okay, I'll tell you what do I mean when I say docs. Go to a MDN website and put
Okay.
marker. Okay, now this will tell you first of all what all browsers support it has. So couple of browsers, Safari and some browsers don't support it. Okay, so
Okay.
again, when you're using these things you need to be careful about which project you're using and what browser support you provide to that project. Okay, and now if you go here you will see that, yeah, see allowable properties. They've mentioned what properties are
Yeah.
allowed, right?
All
So you
right.
see only these properties you can allow, you can do it. Now what? Now you wanted to give that a space, right? And I think
Yeah.
that's valid, right? So you
Yeah.
first try it out, try things out, try it in the text, try and see if you can do it that way. If not, just Google it around, see how other people are doing it. If you still don't find a way, just ask me. I'll tell you how to do it.
Yeah, sure. I'll try to figure it out once. Although
Cool.
adding it to the text won't work. If I
Yeah,
add
yeah,
to the
probably
summary,
that
it
doesn't
won't
work.
work. Yeah,
Yeah, it's
we'll
the
have to
summary.
pass.
Summary again has some
Yeah,
styles that are given by the browser.
yeah.
Any other questions for the class? Yeah, and that's why I didn't wanted to. I could have quickly brushed through some more stuff also, but I actually took some time to create all this. HTML and all that, so that I can demonstrate all the good parts and powerful parts of these things. And I have some more exercises which will be very useful for you guys to understand a lot of capabilities of what these things are. Okay, and that's why let's do it in one more class. Don't worry, I'll find some time out, and I want to do it properly. Yes, Mega, you have a question?
Yeah. So can you please explain the difference between active and a pseudo class, how they are different from each other?
Yeah, I'll explain it to you. So basically, focus. Okay, focus can. So a link could also have focus. So I'll show you. So basically, when I'm clicking anywhere, something is getting focused. So when I click this console on this debugger, also this is also a button or anchor that is getting focused. Okay, focus means that currently that button has the focus from the browser. Any technology, any screen reader, voice over software that you use, that will say that that element has focus. Okay, you might have heard about focus in terms of input boxes also. That focus means your cursor is currently in that input box, and when you click outside the input, it's the blur event, right? You might have heard about that. So that is actually focus. Okay, so focus is achieved by clicks also, and focus can be achieved by hitting tab and shift keyboard also, right? So see, now I hit tab, so this button got focus. Okay, now I'm hitting tab again, so this link is getting focus. Okay, hitting tab again, the next link. Okay, this goes on based on how your browser is, how you've written your HTML content. These elements will get focused. Okay, active is something else. Active is the state. Focus is its state where, when the browser puts that outline on it. Active is the state where I'm saying that I have clicked the button, and this comes up, where I've clicked the button and I have not left it. As soon as I leave it, the active state will go away. It doesn't have the active state. Active state, and again, no, not all elements will have all the states. Okay, like you saw, right? Focus was there for button, was there for links, but these headings and text didn't get focus. You can explicitly add focus, but by default browser don't add doesn't add focus. Browser will only add focus to interactive elements. Okay, that's where button and links and all that will have focus. Okay, active is again active. Not all elements will have active. Okay, so button has active, and active means that you've clicked it, and till the time you don't leave it after you've clicked. So right now my finger is actually on the cursor. I've not left it. As soon as I leave it, the active state goes away. That is your active state. Okay, do
Yeah.
you understand it, or do you want me to explain it in a different way?
Yeah, I got that. Thank you, sir.
Cool. Any other questions? Yes, Puneet.
Vikram, just one more question. Like, can you
Yeah.
please like differentiate between that star and colon root? These two selectors.
Right.
Right.
So
So, yeah.
right, right. So basically, root, when you say root, you mostly use it for your custom properties. Custom properties is where you define all the variables. Okay, and that is where you use this root. And don't actually confuse it with a pseudo class. It's actually not a pseudo class. It's written in that way where, you say that, colon root means that you could actually add styles also to this, but you don't generally add styles to it. You keep root only for defining your custom properties, which are your variables that you use across your app, or across that CSS scope that you've written. And star is your universal selector. When you say star, root is the root element of your website. It's like HTML. If HTML is your root element, right? It's the topmost element. And when you're giving some properties to HTML element, it is only applying to the HTML. If you give background color to HTML element, it will give background color to only that HTML element. It will not give the background color to all the divs and anchors and buttons that you have. That will have their own background color. The difference is that if you say star background color is equal to black, that will give background color to everything, divs, buttons, anchors, everything. So that is the difference. When you say root or an HTML, that's your root of your page, and anything that you write inside that gets applied to the root. And as you know, there is no root, right? There is no root element present inside that. That's why you don't write styles in that. You actually just write your custom properties in that the variables. And star is where, you if you write star, that selects every element, all the elements. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks, Vikram.
Any other question? Yes, there will be assignment. There will be some assignments. You should actually go back and right now, whatever you've learned, you should practice. I know there was a lot of things that I have talked about. You should go back and try out different things. Just open some website and you'll see all of this. You'll see pseudo classes. You'll see pseudo elements. Click on them. See what styles being added. Why are they added? And try out yourself. Have some code sandbox. Uh, put in some HTML, throw in some HTML, write some styles, write some pseudo classes, put in some pseudo elements, and see what you can style. uh, However time I can give you, I can take 4 hours class every day. Still I'll not be able to cover everything because I myself don't know everything. Okay, it's impossible for anyone to know 100% CSS. I would say it's impossible for anyone to know even 95% of CSS, right? So you have to try it out. What is my intention? My intention is to give you some tricks, to give you some quirks, to remove the fear of CSS by telling you how things work. Where are things coming from? Where is this? What is this double colon thing that I see? What is this after and before that people use and write? That is what my intention is, to tell you these things and show you the power of these things, so that you're not trapped into the trap of CSS is hard and I'll use CSS library. You'll use CSS library, but you need to know CSS to be a front end developer. You have to. There is no way around it. You go to any company, you build any medium to complex project, you have to write CSS. You need to know all these things. Otherwise, I told you, right? I've seen people write JavaScript for this. You don't need to write JavaScript for all these things if you know it well. Cool. So if there is no other question, I'll just end it. Yeah, Aurobindo has a question. No?
Yeah, Vikram, I wanted to ask, can we make the marker appear after the, the whatever we have written in the details tag?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know.
Because I was looking for a solution. Usually the solution is that you take a different element and add it and then, style it like that.
Yes. So there are different ways. Let's for an example, let me give you this thing. That let's say your designer came, or let's say you figured that if that marker is after the text, it will look better, or the UX user experience will be better. Let's say you thought about that, and now you want to make the change. How will I go about that? Right. So first, I will try and see if I can modify that marker, if I can change some style, if I can override the styles. Okay, so for that, first I need to understand what are the proper ways for overriding styles. I have not talked about that yet in the class, but you need to figure out what is the specificity, and there are and how specificity tells you how can and what styles you can override from the browser, right? So first I'll see if I can override the style of the summary or marker, because it is at certain place, because there is some style applied to it. Okay, if that doesn't work, I will probably try to change the style of the text and see. no, maybe I'll try and see if I can place the summary somewhere else. I can change some style of the summary so that the icon goes there. Maybe I'll not be able to do that also. If I'll not be able to do that also, and if I still want that a requirement, what I'll do is I'll hide the marker, I'll say display none, and maybe I'll put an icon from of my own that that I'll put it on the right side. And there are so many ways you can do it. You'll have to first try and see if you can use the same thing and you can override and get around with that. If not, then you can just use your own. You can add elements into it. You could probably add an after element as well to that same summary. If you are not able to change the style, I still don't know because I have not tried it myself. So if you're not able to change it, you can just say summary after, and in that you can put some content, and you can, because that you can position is absolutely I don't know if position absolute works on marker and all. If it doesn't, then you there are tons of other ways you could fix this. Try it out. If it doesn't, tell me in the next class, or put it in the chat, and we'll try and do it. Okay. Yeah, guys, you also have a lot of feedback that I see on the chat, but it's hard for me to read all the feedback in the chat while I'm teaching. Some of the comments I see and I sometimes answer also, but it's hard for me while I'm talking and trying to teach you in the class to read all that comments. So if you have feedback, I'll tell you that put it on chat itself. I am not worried about if you're even putting a critical feedback in front of 200 people. If you don't want to put it on chat, you have a Luma feedback where you can put some feedback, any sort of feedback, right? It's hard for me to be able to read all the comments, so I might have missed some of your comments that you have here. If I missed them and you have some concerns, please raise hands and tell right now. If not, then we just put it on chat or somewhere else and we'll take it through. Okay, any other questions? No? Then we'll close it here. I'll stop the recording. And don't worry, please. I will finish this class, of course, so that I can give you. I can finish this, and we'll find some time, and we will notify you what the time is based on the inputs taken from you. Okay. Chalo. See you guys. Bye. Good night.